Some tough financial sledding for local governments, especially the towns here in Dutchess County. On Meet the Leaders coming up next, we're going to talk with the supervisor of the town of Fishkill. Stay right there. This is Meet the Leaders. Welcome. I am your host, Carrie Donovan. Thank you for spending some time with us. And we're going to talk about local government in this half hour with the town supervisor, town of Fishkill, a big town in Dutchess County, Bob LaColla. First term in office. Yes, how's it going?
It's going. We're, well, first, thank you for bringing me on. But it's going well. We've gotten some fairly good news in the past month or so from some of our financial entities that we deal with. We've made some moves internally. We've gotten some new faces within Town Hall that are doing
it's been a busy
job.
7 months.
Yeah.
I was going to say 6 because we wanted to, of course, get you on the program about 6 months into the position. Mm-hmm. Town supervisor in a town as big as Fishkill is full-time. Mm-hmm. This is not a little, no offense to some of our part-time legislators and officials. This is a full-time job. You're there every day, all day. And what were you doing Saturday?
Answering emails, yeah.
Because you and I talked on the phone Friday at 6:30, and
yeah.
you're still at work. So yeah, it's a real big position. Now the town of Fishkill, there's been some real concerns about are enough tax dollars being collected to cover the bills. 2011 ended with a lot of question marks. That was part of the campaign, of course. Mm-hmm. Now 7 months later, it's time to wrap up the books for last year. How are we doing?
Oh, we've done well. For the first time in many years, we had our state report out on time, May 1st. It's called the annual update document. That went up to Albany. We're just about complete with our audit. We should see final results on that in the next 2 weeks or so.
And the audit will tell you there's money in the checking account, there isn't.
Well, it's confirming what we had presented. We've gotten there. The books before had a lot of crossed entries. They were called due to, due from accounts, from one account to another. We've gotten all those pared down. We revealed the deficit to be, looks to be about 4.6 million. So now we've got a number, we know what we're dealing with, we can move on. We had to make over 300 journal entries to correct everything for the 2011 books, but now we've got a clean set of books. And you know, we bring in an independent auditor. For this year, it's a new company. We had a firm that was in for 20 years. We went out and contracted with a new one. They're just wrapping up. They've got a few questions that need to be answered. We should see results in a couple of weeks on that.
All right, now, ending 2011, when you were not the supervisor, mm-hmm. ending the year 4.6 million in the red is not. The town people have got to be unhappy. Or is that not? Or is it on a percentage basis not such a big deal?
I'm sure people aren't happy, but I think they're understanding of the issues that we have. I found that through the campaign. People just wanted to know. They'd rather know than just have this kind of looming liability out there that was undefined. So I think most people know we've got some heavy lifting to do going into the next few years to try to get this corrected. We've got an obligation to the people that lend to us. We have 30 million out in debt. We've got to take care of business and make sure we make those payments timely. We're kind of reformatting the financing. As a matter of fact, the Environmental Facilities Corporation has lent us $12 million on just one plant, the Rombout sewer plant. That's been in a short-term pool. I just got word last week that that's now going into a long-term pool with a possibility that it may even be subsidized. But even if it's not, we'll be in with their AAA rating. It should reduce the cost quite a bit for the people in that district.
Your borrowing cost you're managing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that moves 12 million off into the long-term column, leaves us with 8. Our recreation facility was due to go to long-term financing. With our current credit rating, it would have cost a small fortune. With the help of the local Assemblyman Joel Miller and Senator Salan, we were able to help push a bill through, and I've got to give credit to the governor's office. Amanda Hiller up there was phenomenal. She pulled the bill out, got it under the governor's nose just in time to get it signed. It allowed us to go into short-term loans again for the recreation facility, saving the taxpayers about $100,000 a year.
And 100,000, as I say this too often, 100,000 here, 100,000 there, it starts to add up. Yeah, that's real money.
Yeah.
So you've really spent your first 6-7 months in office with your accountant visor on, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much. If the money's not there, we have all kinds of problems. So yeah, we needed to demonstrate to the capital markets, especially Moody's, they're the ones that analyze our position, that we're serious about taking care of business. And I think we've gotten there. We've been reviewed by them twice this year.
Oh, no kidding.
They've affirmed our rate twice, and I've gotten word that if we accomplish a few things, one is just getting a little further along in the year. They want to see us go through our budget process. That if we perform those tasks well, they're looking to improve our rating, and which will go a long way to helping reduce costs.
If you're joining us, Bob LaColla, Supervisor, Town of Fishkill, first term, $4.6 million deficit for last year.
Well, it's cumulative.
Right,
That's,
over time.
End. Yes.
Over time, built up. So now and as the financial officer, chief financial officer for the town of Fishkill, how do we pay off that 4.2, 4.6? It's going to take some time.
It's going to come through the tax rolls. Luckily for us, we have a significant amount of commercial ratables. They carry the bulk of the weight, but we're going to develop a 5-year plan to get this thing zeroed out. If there's any increase in the economy, it just helps us. Now, keep in mind that deficit is on what's called our general budget. We have 33 special districts that are all separate accounts. Some of those are in trouble. We have a public hearing next week to adjust our rates on water and sewer districts to keep those balanced and sustainable.
I was going to say it's probably water and sewer because those they're expensive to run, and as they age, just like an older house, and I love old houses, as the house ages, you have to fix more things.
Yeah. And we've kind of, a lot of the maintenance that needed to be had has gone undone. So we need to correct that too. We've been able to secure some money. There's CHIPS money, county money available to help repave roads. So for the first time in 5 years, we're paving roads this year, and again, at no cost to the local taxpayer. That comes through funds that are available. There's other places too. The police, some of the equipment there, especially the IT equipment, is ancient. Senator Solan's office has gotten us some JAG money, which is federal money, to help fit out our cars so they're complete.
Yeah,
so
the whole modern pull-it-up information centers.
Yeah, we have an opportunity to do everything electronically, all our reporting through the police vehicles. Yet we're running about 50% on our traffic violations and 0 on the accident reporting. We want to see that get to 100%.
Again, it's more efficient, and it's where the world is.
Yeah.
We're all connected up and wired up. That's how it works.
And from a safety standpoint, we'll have real-time reporting. It helps all the agencies figure out the best way to go forward to keep our public safe.
Okay. And we're spending some time here on finances because this has been a key issue for the town of Fishkill. You mentioned you spent Saturday answering emails, and I know your phone rings a lot because it took me a couple calls to get you. What do the residents, what are they calling you about this summer?
There's always issues. Some are great. We had an offer for somebody to do a bronze cast statue in one of our parks for a historic effort.
And you'd look, I'm trying to see in bronze now,
This is
Bob.
Daniel Ninham. He's going for Native American sculpture. We've had an issue with Dutchess Park Lake, which is basically a retention pond that's kind of aging out. Again, lack of maintenance. We had Ed Hoxie from Dutchess County Soil and Water come down, and he's putting together a plan to try to clean up that lake. We have some algae problems, some invasive species, and that's kind of a long-term plan. But people are coming to us about that. We have a lot more people coming forward looking for use of the town hall space for meetings. We're still doing business as a town, and in addition to trying to get caught up with the other issues that we were talking about earlier.
Now, it's been difficult for local governments from 2008 when the economy just crashed. Let's face it, towns collect property taxes, but you can't collect the tax if the house is foreclosed and the people are gone. You had some serious impacts there but those buildings are still there. The street the house sits on is still there. The snow still gets plowed. The water and sewer districts still have to collect cash. Are you seeing a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of how the economy is impacting town finances and the town overall?
Yeah, well, Fishkill, like we've discussed before, is in a unique position. Demographically, it's in great shape. Geographically, it's in great shape. We have access to all forms of transportation. We've got a great base of commercial properties. We don't have a lot of the foreclosure problems that you see in other parts of the county. So what we're addressing is pretty much has been a management issue. It's just a matter of balancing the books. I think once we get back on track, we'll see these wounds heal rather quickly. I'm confident of that.
So the property tax cap going to be an issue as you work on your 2013 budget or not?
No, we already voted to break the cap. I mean, it's obvious that we need to do that to get back on track. And again, once we demonstrate that we're serious about taking care of business, a lot of our other costs then start to come down. A lot of people have felt that the tax rate was low. If you look closely, you'd see that a lot of the costs were offset. Special districts were kicking in the difference, plus we have this accumulated deficit. So while the rate was stable for a long time, the spending hadn't slowed down. We've got some bills to pay.
And that's going to generate more of those phone calls and emails.
Oh yeah. But we're doing it all publicly. It's openly discussed at our board meetings, which are now televised and streamed online.
Right.
If people go to our Town of Fishkill website, fishkill-ny.gov, there's a place in our meeting minutes where you can go right to video. You can watch our town board meetings where the decisions are made. Mm-hmm. And like I say, all this information is openly discussed.
Well, I think you and I chatted recently that because it's all televised, the Beacon school superintendent came over to make a presentation on the school budget because here's internet access, television access, again, a good channel to communicate to the public and the residents of the town who are in that school district. So that was pretty handy.
Yeah, it's incumbent on us. That's what we do. We're collecting money from people. There's a service we need to provide. I think it's very important that we're clear about what service is being provided, and that we're diligent in making sure we're delivering it at the best rate. We were talking about our intern before. Basically, we've got an intern that's doing financial analysis for us. She generated a report on our affordable housing department. We found that we couldn't justify the expense of the department as it was constructed. Now, when it was first put together and there was a lot of work to do, we needed the staffing that we had there. It was obvious that today this thing had gone down to a simmer. We have somebody on staff that handles all the administrative work and has plenty of extra time. We ended up eliminating a position that saves the town $120,000 a year. So, we've got to stay on that.
Intern was in the supervisor's office, or?
Yes.
Because here's what will happen. Where do I intern in Fishkill town government will be the one question. But more interestingly, you had someone come in who actually was able to do good work as a college student, and that's terrific.
Yeah. Now I had gone to the local schools. Believe it or not, I had no luck with all the area schools. We sent out a notice, and I really didn't get any nibbles on that. We went far and wide. We ended up with an intern from Sri Lanka who's going to school in the UK, and we're lucky enough to have her. She's been doing phenomenal work.
Okay, we'll pick that up in a moment, because I always want to get a handle on particularly younger people and their involvement in town government. So we'll just park that for a second, but that's a great... From the UK?
Going to school there. Yeah.
Understand. And from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So how does someone, let's go right there. How does someone get from Sri Lanka to Great Britain to Fishkill? How'd that happen?
Well, one of our local residents, his good friend, and very diligent in keeping an eye on what goes on inside Town Hall, came to me and said that his family is in the garment business. They had a connection over in Sri Lanka. There's a manufacturing facility over there that happened to be, Menashe is her name. Her father worked together with this gentleman, and he said, there's somebody you have to meet. She's coming over for the summer. She'd love to do an internship somewhere. And we met, and everything worked out, so that's how she got here.
And let me just jump in here. As a parent, young people travel the globe these days. College students, my niece is just back from Nepal. She's a bio major.
Yeah.
So she went to Nepal for a few months and did an internship in Nepal, because that's how they travel. Maybe that's why the local colleges are making the connection for you. Maybe everyone from Marist and Vassar is in Nepal or India or Australia or someplace. And we'll get our interns from the United Kingdom.
There we go.
I love it.
I like the fact that, here's a young person, you figure they'd want to be in New York City or someplace a little more dynamic. We're just glad she came with us, and lucky to have her.
That's too much. We're talking with Bob LaColla. He's the supervisor of the town of Fishkill in his first term and dealing with some serious issues, including the deficit that's been looming over the town. We've known about that for a while. We'll pick up on that thread and also want to talk about some other things that homeowners should be alert to, and that'll be the new flood mapping. So let's pick that up right after this break. This is Meet the Leaders. We'll be right back.
The Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival is celebrating its 26th year of bringing the works of William Shakespeare to the shores of the Hudson River at the beautiful Boscobel Gardens in Garrison. This season, the festival will feature Romeo and Juliet and Love's Labor's Lost. Also this season is The 39 Steps, a fast-paced whodunit based on the classic Hitchcock film. For tickets and more details, call the box office or visit hvshakespeare.org.
Dutchess County has tough choices to make for the 2013 budget, and we need your help. We've launched a budget survey to get feedback about how your tax dollars are spent. Let us know what county programs and services are important to you and your family. Our goal is simple. We work for the people of Dutchess County, and we want to hear from you. Visit dutchessny.gov and take the survey today.
Rebuilding Together believes in a safe and healthy home for every person in our community. For the past 20 years, Rebuilding Together Dutchess County has been helping our neighbors in need to live in a warm, safe, dry, and independent home environment at no cost to the homeowner. Rebuilding Together Dutchess County is now accepting applications for their 2013 rebuilding programs. Go to rebuildingtogetherdutchess.org for an application.
Hello, this is Meet the Leaders. Thanks for looking in. I'm Kerry Donovan, your host, and we're continuing our discussion with the Town of Fishkill Supervisor, Bob LaColla. Bob, one of the things that homeowners are unfortunately getting lately are a letter, usually from their mortgage company or their insurance company or both, that says, the state and the federal government redrew floodplain maps. Surprise, you're in one.
Yeah.
This is really shocking a lot of folks who didn't know they were in a floodplain.
Yeah, and initially, some folks around town thought there was very little we could do about it. It's a federal initiative. What happened was the floodplain maps before were big, thick lines, very hard to discern what was in, what was out. The new maps are very well defined. They might not always be very accurate, but they're very well defined. What's happened is the private sector has jumped in, and that banks that have lent on these properties are now asking for floodplain insurance. What we've been asking for is some kind of a stay from the federal government that will relieve these people so they don't have to pay this premium for, say, 12, 18 months in order to find some time to try to get this issue addressed.
Because right now, and this is what you're hearing at the town hall, I have a house, I've lived here 20 years, it's never flooded. Mm-hmm. Now I have to go out and buy a very expensive flood insurance policy, and people are livid.
Yeah, and there's a waiver that's available, but it limits what you're getting. I think they're limiting the cost of the insurance to about $300. But again, it's in particular cases, and the other way to deal with it is to go out and get a topographical map of your property, which generally costs in the neighborhood of $2,000. And again, that's without any guarantees that it's going to accomplish what you want. So our thinking is if someone's willing to sign off saying we haven't had a problem, we've never made a claim on flooding, We've never had an issue, and we'll take care of anything that does happen in the meantime. Why not allow them a waiver and give everybody a little breathing room so we can get this addressed properly, make sure that it's fair?
The concern right now is that we won't, this initiative to get a cooling off period, a little stretch, that goes to the federal level?
Yeah, and we've contacted the local federal representatives. It's a campaign year, so I know it's tough for people to stay focused, but I can say Nan Hayward's office has been great. John Van Etten down in Washington, D.C. has been tasked with dealing with this, and I know he's been diligent following up. I believe they're looking into what they can do, and hopefully we'll hear from them shortly.
All right, so if someone is getting these notes from their mortgage company, should they call the town hall for info?
Sure. Joel Petras and Debbie Figiano in our building department are well versed now. They know the drill.
Yeah. So if you're getting a letter, call the building department after you cool off.
Yeah.
And for some folks are in a floodplain and maybe just didn't know it. That's the other thing. Not everyone's lived in their house 20 years.
Right.
Fishkill people do move in and move out. You know,
Yeah.
It's a busy community.
Yeah, and you know, the unseen effect on this is the property values. You know, now if you bought a house that wasn't in a floodplain and now it's being designated as in a floodplain, even if it's just a small piece of the property, you know, corner of the property that's not close to the house, it can affect property values, and we don't want to see that happen either.
No, that's a real challenge, challenge. So this has been, of course, as you point out, a national issue. It's been going on across the Hudson Valley, and it is, it's a hilly place. We do have plenty of water running around, but I think the real change was they used satellite maps and imaging, and they just changed everything.
Yeah, and we're not Margaretville. You know, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not subject to the same type of flooding. As a matter of fact, last year was the rainiest year on record, and most of these folks didn't see a drop. So, if we came through a year like that, I think it's safe to say they're not a real high threat in terms of flooding.
Is this a dozen homes, 100 homes in the town?
They're coming in, so I'd imagine it's in the neighborhood of maybe 3 dozen folks that have come forward so far. Now, I don't know how many are just not approaching the town and dealing with it. I'm sure there's some people that just went ahead and bought the insurance. So it's hard to get an estimate of the size of the people affected.
Yeah, and these are real issues. You know, when people buy real estate on the Gulf Coast or on the water in Florida, they know they're paying. They do now know they're paying huge insurance premiums because of the history of storms and other activities. But so here, this is, like you said, we had really rainy seasons and not so much trouble.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
Again, just looking for a little time so everybody can look at it, you know, in a sober way, you know, and just take care of business.
We've been having a kind of a serious discussion here with Bob LaColla, Supervisor Fishkill. Pretty good deficit the town's going to have to work off over the next few years. It's going to cost everybody some cash to get the books balanced. At the same time, are you seeing sufficient volunteerism in the community? This is a theme the governor brought up earlier last year during the floods, and he's back on it again, that New Yorkers could do more to volunteer, could get more involved in local boards, local commissions. You seeing that in Fishkill at all?
Yeah, I think that's always been the case, and I'll fess up to dropping the ball on this. I had quite a few people come forward in the beginning, and I wanted to make sure that I was ready to be able to, you know, marshal a process to where we could really engage these people properly. So I have quite a few names of people that I need to get into contact with.
These are folks that came forward and said, I could volunteer to do something. Okay, good.
We've always had the volunteer boards, and
Right.
those are still active. We still have plenty of people doing good work for the town. We've seen a lot of fresh faces come forward. Like I said, we spent a lot of time putting out fires in the first 6 months or so. I think as we shift into the next part of the year, we're looking towards, you know, volunteerism and our internal processes and making sure that we're showing a good face to the public, making sure that our systems are working properly.
Okay. One of the things that we hear from the state level on down, the county level on down, are that local governments can save costs. I know there's buying through the county, for example. But other services, are you looking at shared services with adjoining townships?
Yeah, anywhere we can. I get together with the mayors of the village of Fishkill and Beacon on a regular basis where we discuss things. We're just cutting a deal now, selling land to the village so they can put up a water tower. We've been in negotiations with entities in East Fishkill on water sewer deals. Again, looking forward, there's a lot of things we could be doing, and sometimes it's just a matter of time. We're a little short-staffed in Town Hall and a little underfunded, and I'm hoping to have that corrected next year. But yeah, we embrace the idea of collaboration and consolidation.
Yeah, it's interesting because another town supervisor recently said to me, it's because I have a couple key people that get this idea of shared services in the employ of the town, we're making real headway, because it really comes down to, like all things in life, is relationships and, and knowing what needs to be done and finding the other person in the next town or the next village or the next city that says, yeah, we could together get more efficient with this. It really comes down to the people.
Yeah, and I've got to be careful here too, because when you talk about consolidation, it impacts employees and departments, and I think it's important that in these efforts that these things become ripe before we start upsetting people's lives unnecessarily. So I think it's incumbent on us to make sure we're packaging something that makes sense to the taxpayer, that'll provide a good service in the end, and is something sustainable going forward.
Now, you have a lot of town employees on working, what, 410s?
Yeah, 4 8 3/4, I think it is.
Yeah, however,
a 35-hour work week.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
But working 4 days instead of 5, is that going to change?
Yeah, we're going, as of September 4th, we're going to a 5-day work week. Now, there's 2 labor units that we're dealing with that don't have contracts yet that impact that slightly. More importantly, we have a budget that's, we can't take another 14% and go to a full 5-day schedule. So we'll have to look to do that possibly next year. So our hours will be from 8 to 3, and we're going to keep an eye on it. My experience in Town Hall is that that's when most of the activity happens. There tends to be very little activity in the later afternoon.
It's first thing in the morning, I'm calling the town hall.
Yeah.
Top of my list.
Yeah, and the feedback I've gotten is a lot of people take off Friday to do their chores around town. We've been closed on Fridays, and it's upset quite a few people, so we'll have Friday staffed again. If we find we need to go to a late night, a Tuesday or Thursday night where we'll shift the staff over to late, we'll do that, but we're going to keep an eye on it and make sure that we're serving the people in the town.
That's a good point, because there are plenty of people in Fishkill and neighboring towns who are commuters, and they might do 4 days in the city and a day Friday. They're back up in the Hudson Valley and want to get things accomplished.
Yeah, they've sent a message loud and clear. We heard it, and we're adjusting.
Loud and clear. I love how
it's
a wonderful way to say it, right?
Yeah.
I bet it was a little louder than it was clear.
Yeah, you have to feel for these people too. If someone's taking a day off with an assumption, most town halls are open quite a bit longer than we are. With all the financial problems, what was given in lieu of pay was time off, and where we used to have a half-hour unpaid lunch, now we have an hour of paid lunch. It's really contracted the available time that our
And these have been negotiated over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
especially things went upside down, I think, in late 2005, and so there's been a lot of those types of givebacks since then.
Okay, we got about a minute left. What's the final big project for the year? The big budget for 2013? That pretty much going to absorb all your time?
Yeah, we're already starting the process. But in addition to that, we're looking for initiatives that are going to lower costs. Like I said, we're adjusting our water and sewer rates, but we also have 2 feasibility studies being completed right now to look at reducing overall costs in those districts. So it's not just a matter of trying to find the funding to pay all bills. It's going to be looking for ways to reduce costs overall. And we're going to engage the department heads early with the mandate that this is going to be a year to be very creative. It's looking for outside funding sources, looking for ways to save, looking for creative ways to address the problems in front of us.
We're going to leave it right there.
All right.
Bob LaColla, Supervisor Town of Fishkill, thanks for being with us on Meet the Leaders.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for looking in. We'll see you again real soon.
Thank you, sir.